Welcome to Dropping In, a podcast of storytelling and interviews with your host, Winter Olympian Mercedes Nicoll.
Thank you so much for dropping in. This is series 10, where it is take 2 of the Whistler kids. Now, Whistler gets a lot of visitors, but for those of you that don't know, we have almost 12,000 residents in this beautiful town we call Whistler. Now, it does produce a lot of Olympians, as I am one of them, as well as athletes, but I'm excited to share a diverse group of people with you today, or throughout this series, rather. I'll be chatting with a diverse group of Whistler kids that grew up in our small Canadian mountain town, from writers to Olympian business leaders to all around talented people that have come out of our town, Whistler. Now, this is episode 84, so let me introduce the next guest that we will be dropping in with. The first medal ever won by a Canadian man in slalom ski was won by our next guest at the 2009 World Championships, taking home the bronze. This Whistler kid is a 3-time Winter Olympian, racing in the 2006, 2010, and 2014 Winter Games. His family moved from West Vancouver to Whistler in 1995 when he was 13. He has finished in the top 10 a total of 27 times during his World Cup career. And due to his bronze medal, he was named a Canadian Cowboy, a name given to current members of the Canadian national men's alpine ski team who have won a World Cup or a World Championships or an Olympic medal. That's pretty cool. He and his teammates founded their Cowboy Camp, awarding an annual bursary to hardworking young ski racers in BC. Now, get this, he's got a book coming out, Go to the Start, and it will be published and launched this September 2023. This son, husband, father, author, Olympian, World Championship medalist is a Whistler kid. Let's drop in with Mike Janyk. Hello, Mike. How are you?
Mercedes, what's happening?
Is it weird to hear all those things?
I keep wondering if you're going to be making something up, but no, it's pretty cool.
It's kind of like things that while you're in it, you're not really thinking about it, and then when you're done and you reflect, you're like, "Oh, damn, I didn't know that."
Yeah. And I like to think the further you get away from your retirement date, away
Yeah.
from your athletic career, it seems the better your results get. Because
Right.
I do get introduced. You're like, oh, world championship gold medalist, and I'm like,
Yeah,
no, that
I know.
never happened. But
Do you know do you know what's funny is though, our family friend Tyler Cranston, who's now passed, he's like, "If someone makes that mistake, you don't correct them."
no, yes, you go with it.
So funny. All right, Mike,
Mhm.
are you ready to drop in on these 10 questions that you've never seen before? Yep,
Let's
you're
do
ready?
it.
Dropping
Let's do
in.
it.
Okay, number 1, where in the world are you today?
I am in beautiful Whistler, BC.
Amazing. Again, they're never rapid because this just gets people to like know you a little bit more.
Right.
Number 2, the infamous question of the Whistler Kids series. Whistler or Blackcomb?
Oh man. Um,
Wait,
well,
where are you currently sitting right now?
I'm pretty side. I'm at the base of Whistler Mountain,
Yeah.
and as a kid, we grew up mainly on Blackcomb, and
Mhm.
so as a Whistler kid, quote unquote, it was Blackcomb. But as if I were to say that to my wife now, she would say, "Not a chance. I'm definitely Whistler Mountain over Blackcomb because she's the one who drags me over there."
So
So
funny.
I guess now Whistler Mountain more, but I do love them both.
Do you know what? In your bio, I didn't even say what job you're doing right now. So do you want to just jump in and let us know?
Yeah, I'm the executive director for the Whistler Mountain Ski Club. So back in the development side of sport, working with the club that I grew up in,
Yeah.
and it's the development pathway for ski racers in this valley.
So cool. Really proud of you.
Well, thank
Uh,
you.
number 3, what was your Whistler hangout when you were a kid, and what is it now?
The Whistler hangout as a kid. Um, ooh, probably the arcade, which doesn't exist
Yeah, or okay,
anymore,
like, which one? Because we had a fair few
under the conference center.
under the
Uh,
okay, so there was one in the conference center, like, in the mid-90s that was, like, the one with the
uh,
air hockey, that was, Feet
uh,
and Bo Jarvis both brought that one up, and it was, like, Wonderland? Whistler Wonderland or something like that?
yes, yeah.
But then there was another one that's in, like, like, where the core was. Do you
Oh,
remember that one?
now you're pushing my memory. I would be, but that would for sure. We used to definitely go hang out there, or
Yeah,
stroll the village in our teen years.
yeah.
And then on hill, I would for me it was the orange chair
Oh, yeah.
was our training zone, and really just lapping Goats Gully. And after we got out of the course, so that would definitely we spent a lot of time there. And then nowadays, probably the trails, the bike and hiking trails around Cheakamus, around where we live,
Yeah.
is uh, is yeah, pretty common hangout spot.
Alright. Nice, nice. It's funny that everyone brings up the arcade. I love that. Okay. Number 4, are you a morning person or a night owl?
I'm a morning person. As much as I try to be a night owl, when
Yeah.
I retired, I thought I would be like all loosey goosey and not an intense competitive athlete. And I had a goal to be able to like stay up and just sleep on the couch and not go to bed. But
Yeah.
then the anxiety would creep in that I wasn't going to wake up in the proper space, and so I could never do it. So,
Oh my gosh.
uh,
You've been, like, trained, like, your whole career to be a morning person.
yes, yes.
You
I
guys
do
get
like to
up
sleep in,
really
but
early.
I do, yeah, we do get up early. I don't mind it.
Like, okay, so when we were at Mount Hood, you were there probably at the same time I was. W
Yeah.
we would we would see, like, the ski racers running up and down the, like, street, and I
Uh,
was like, "Man, they're up so early." Like, what time would you have to get up when you
I
were,
mean,
like,
we're
doing that?
like 4:30 or 5, and then you go for your morning jog. And it's funny, so it was patterned into us, obviously, to get up, do your morning jog. And I don't know if the coaches really, thought that this was a must, or they just wanted to build in some good culture of hard work. But
Right.
I remember getting to 18 years old, and I did it from whatever, 13, 14, all those years. And I
Yeah.
was 18, 19, and I was my first year on the national team. And we were in Colorado, it was the fall. And I went outside, I was like minus 15, snow. And I remember starting to jog down the street. And then I stopped and I went, hey, wait a minute. I don't have to do this anymore.
You're like, "I've made."
Yeah, I turned around, and I mean, I definitely had iterations, and my morning jog routine changed. There was
Yeah.
still a warm up, but I didn't need to go pounding outside from 5
Isn't that
a.m. on.
funny? So
Yeah,
funny. Yeah, very different reality from snowboarding and skiing, I can
yes.
tell you that much, but much
Uh,
respect. Number 6. Oh, wait, you're a morning person, so number 5. How do you start
mhm.
your day? It's probably different now, you have a child.
Yes, hopefully it's usually now with getting Poppy or no,
Yeah,
she gets us up, so starting the day with that. But prior to Poppy, and I still try to do it with her, but I try to get in some yoga movement,
yeah.
and just some little bit, but usually when we're working early mornings, still for the ski club, it's
Mhm.
get a coffee. Well, making my espresso is probably the
Is your,
constant
like,
ritual in all of
yeah.
it. Yes. So
So you
making a
are a
great
coffee man.
espresso, and that's the constant.
I had a great conversation with an athlete about coffee, and he's like, "Well, what kind of coffee do you like?" I was like, "Ooh, I'm the odd one out that doesn't actually drink coffee." I feel it's
Uh,
like a drug in me. It's not my thing.
yes, it's. I got limit it. I have to limit it. I can only do a couple Americanos a day max, but
Yeah,
I do really enjoy a nice morning coffee.
there we go. Number 6, would you choose a book or would you choose Netflix?
Uh, I'd like to say book, but the default probably is Netflix.
Yeah.
But I go in waves. I go in waves.
Mhm.
If there's a book that catches me, then I'm definitely choosing that. But probably the majority of the time it's Netflix.
Okay, and then when you read a book, are you, like, so drawn in that you, like, start to finish, got to?
No, 1,000
You
percent not. I don't
you okay,
know how those people.
no,
I
I'm
mean,
I'm
I don't
those
know how those
people.
happen. Really?
I get in it and I can't stop, and I have
Wow.
no friends for, like, however long it takes me, yeah. I have a problem.
I admire that. Yeah, I know it's
Don't.
more
I
short burst.
I don't think
But
it's healthy, but here we are. Okay, what was the last, Netflix show that you binged? I'm always, like, intrigued.
we just finished off a friend's recommendation. We just finished Cleo. I don't know if
Cleo?
you've heard of Cleo. It's German with subtitles, and she's a
Oh.
former assassin from the fall of the Berlin Wall and the Cold War. So I quite enjoyed it. One,
Yeah.
because of the whole spy espionage piece, but the German subtitles work because I got to practice my German a little bit and listen to it a bit.
Is that a thing?
Well, I don't know. I tried to learn German during my career,
Did you?
and so well, we spent a lot of time
In Europe.
in Austria. We had a home base there,
Yeah.
so I feel a little connected to the language.
Okay, cool.
But
Interesting.
it's really good. It's really good.
Okay, Cleo. Nice.
Mhm.
Number 7, name one thing, if there I know there's gonna be a million, that you've learned the hard way.
Uh, that I'm not always right.
That I'm not always right.
Uh, that sucks to learn. Um, 'Cause then you're like really wrong.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yeah, no, it's the yeah. I think um, I'll
I
stick with
love
that
that.
one. I'll
I
stick with
love
that
that. That's so good. Oh man. On the first episode of this series, I had Bo Jarvis on, and he's like, "Everything?"
one. Yeah, yeah,
I was like,
true.
"Totally fair. Totally fair."
Uh,
Okay, number 7. What is your current favorite sport?
I would say mountain biking
Yeah.
is is it's I mean I like golf quite a bit, um, and but mountain biking is just so accessible and you can get out in a short burst, and it actually challenges what I learned in skiing, and you
Yeah.
can apply it there, and actually it makes me a better coach, a ski coach, because of how much I have to get better in biking. So there's a lot of similarities there.
That's so funny you say that because I think I'm not a good biker, and it's very much a lot of the same cues as when I
Hmm.
coach for snowboarding, and I'm like, "Oh, this is what it's like to be out of your comfort zone. It's very
Yeah.
uncomfortable."
Yes.
Oh,
I know.
that's so true.
You put
Um,
yourself in the shoes of the kids, and they're like,
exactly,
"All
yeah.
right, it's
Okay.
tough." Yeah.
Nice. Number 9, because we live in Whistler, we do have both. If you had to choose, you can totally choose both. Lake or mountains?
Oh, mountain lakes? Do those
Ma
count?
Yeah, they do. That's a good answer
Yes,
because
mountain
it's so
lakes. But that does imply summer.
Yeah,
Yes, I spend enough time in the winter that I'll happily choose a nice summer day on the lake.
yeah, I can't wait for that.
Uh,
Alright, the last one of the rapid fire, which is never rapid, but we have got to know you a lot better. Number 10, what is one core memory from your childhood in Whistler?
um, hmm. That's a good one. I was gonna say, well, dancing on the tables at Dusty's while my parents had an nap break, and
Yeah.
the old Dusty's, the trailer,
Yeah,
um, and that probably is etched in, yeah,
I love that.
burned in my memory. Yeah,
That's so I can't believe you remember that.
I,
I
yeah,
feel
my
like
sisters and I would routinely dance on the picnic tables outside the trailer. Well, they had great arcade games there too, so we'd go in and out between the arcade games. Um,
So good, so good. Oh
uh,
my gosh. Being a Whistler kid, let's get into that now. Like,
all right.
we brought up the arcade a couple of times. It sounds like that's all we had back in the day. Well, they were still building like the whole village when we were growing up. So
Mhm.
it was probably like a quarter of what it is now, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, Village North or Marketplace definitely wasn't there. It was just a little
Yeah.
village stroll. But I mean, my memories of of the like really when I was young, and I was still coming up and down from Vancouver, and we
Yeah.
moved here when I was 13. So I think at that point in '95, it was pretty. Yeah, I mean, not the same as what it is today, obviously, but
Yeah.
relatively similar. But it was, I don't know, it was feel like a kid's playground. I mean, it still does, but
Yeah.
it was super fun.
And you've traveled around the whole pretty much world going to snow resorts in Europe and everywhere. Does anything compare to Whistler for you?
There's elements to it in different places, but it definitely feels really organic here. And the resort, like some people try to do it or similar, but then it becomes like Disneyland esque.
Mhm.
Where Whistler's still for me pretty core, and so
Yeah.
that mixture of those two is pretty special. And what it can offer, like on the mountain, it's yeah for it, the lift accessible terrain you can get to. It's next level.
It is next level. And it's whenever I get clients, I'm like, "Guys, these are really long runs, like, pace yourselves." A lot of people that come
Yes.
here are like, "I got this." I'm like, "Oh, "I don't know that you do."
They quickly learn when the ski out takes an hour and a half. You're like, okay, we just finished lunch. We're gonna make our way down. They're like,
Yeah.
what? And you're like, well, it's gonna be an hour and a half, most
Yeah,
likely. So,
totally, totally. Oh, you know what? I didn't say that we both do the ski and ride with an Olympian for Whistler
that's
Blackcomb.
right.
So you
Yes.
you do that as well as your job that
A
you're
few of those. I
doing.
do less and less, but they are
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So, back to growing up in Whistler, and I wanna get, like, a take on your way of growing up, and then how you think it's gonna be for your daughter growing up.
Mm, yeah. That's a great question. I mean, it was pretty loose. It felt like, uh,
But in the
my
best
first
way,
year.
right?
Yeah, well, my first year we went to Pemberton High School in grade 8, and
Yeah.
so basically driving up and down between the 30 minutes between Vancouver and Whistler, you felt like there was a ton of freedom,
Mhm.
and it was more kid. We had a handful of kids that they were up here for the sport, and some of them, their parents, didn't live up here
Oh,
all week,
yeah.
and so it was a little. There was a little freedom and places to go hang.
There were some
Uh,
good parties, let's just say that much,
yes.
when we were
So,
older.
but I mean, I'm sure there's probably similar pieces to that.
Yeah.
But the busyness is probably the biggest difference. Like,
Mhm.
on the mountain, there's it's probably um, a little more fervor out there, a lot more people
For sure.
trying to get the same stuff. But I'm sure, yeah, it may not feel the same for a kid.
Does Whistler still have, like, the community feel for you?
That I always feel that way, and I work with our employees, our coaches that come in and for a season or 2 seasons, and or people who've lived here from maybe their 30s or 20s,
Mhm.
and they may not feel that, and they talk about that, but I think because you do have those connections. I'll see you around town, or you run into
Yeah.
people that you just know, and so that for me is what really makes that sense of community. It's like we had friends come up the other weekend, and they ran into. They're like, "Oh my God, we ran into people that we knew at the grocery store," and
Yeah.
I think that small town vibe is even with all the tourists, you can always find it. You
I
just got to be a
agree.
little, a little creative
Totally.
to
Very, very
dance
true.
around it.
I
Yeah.
wanna I wanna talk about, your when did you get on the, like, ski team? And when you were in high school, How did that work for you with traveling and everything?
Yeah, it worked out well. It wasn't easy, but the high school we had up here was super accommodating from, essentially from when I was in grade 10.
Mhm.
So on the provincial ski team for 2 years and then on the national team when I was 18. So actually, in the national team, I was already graduated. But
Yeah.
even on that provincial ski team or when I was on the Whistler Mountain Ski Club, I was gone all winter. Uh,
Exactly, yeah.
basically. And the school just accommodated us and a couple other athletes in different sports. And we had, this is obviously before the internet was, you could do your courses online. Not before the internet, actually, ish. But no.
Ish. Yeah.
Um, but you couldn't do courses online. So they'd make the learning guides, they'd give you printouts, and you'd have two
Mhm.
courses to complete
Mhm.
across the winter. So it was the best. Like,
It
honestly,
was.
school, and we did well in school, and but there's a lot of wasted time in
Well,
school.
no, but I it is
So
it
yeah,
is it is super interesting because if I look back on it, because I was in that program as well, I was like, A, that taught us, like, really good self-motivation because
yeah,
you had to get the work done and you didn't have anyone, like, really looking over you, and you
yeah,
were away on the road a lot.
yeah. So you build that intrinsic motivation. It's like, okay, we need
Mhm.
to get this in, and you had your teammates that you were working with. So
Yeah.
I just honestly, it was the best lifestyle, that pursuit of high performance, that I always had something to go to,
Mhm.
and it gave that freedom. And then I obviously loved school in the fall and spring when we were back.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah, it was, I it was quite nice, and I couldn't wait to graduate. That was for sure.
Same, same.
Yeah.
So, when you came back, from the 2009 World Championships, I was probably not living in Whistler at the time. I was probably in Mammoth Lakes, California. What was that like to come home? I mean, I know
Well,
that wait. First, I need to say that I understand that, like, ski racing is, like, the mecca in Europe, and you guys are, like, gods over there. So it's probably a little bit different when you come home to Whistler, but, I mean, still, our community is so rad. Was it amazing?
well, it was actually kind of sad on one
Oh,
side
no.
because, well, I didn't get to come home right away, and that was
Oh, yeah.
because we had to, basically, the World Championships is in the middle of the season, like the Olympics, and then we had another World Cup to go straight to.
Oh,
So I actually went. I was so fired up, and all I wanted to do was come home, see my friends and family,
yeah.
the community that supported me. Um, but I went right to another race in Sestriere in Italy, and I was really bummed. Like,
Oh,
I, yeah, I
no.
was super down. I didn't want to be there, and it's one of the things, the coaches set the plan for you, and
Yeah,
it made
yeah,
sense
yeah.
before the medal, and it probably didn't make sense after.
So you
But
didn't get to celebrate it.
so not well, we celebrated in Europe for sure.
Yeah.
But when when I did come home in the spring, around the Whistler Cup, which is the international children's race that we host for the last 30 years here, they
Mhm.
did do a nice celebration around that.
Aw.
But yeah, it was actually interesting this year at the World Championships. We had two athletes, alumni from our club, Cam Alexander and Jack Crawford, who were bronze and gold medalists. And they fortunately came back for us right away because their next World Cup was in Aspen. So they
Oh,
stopped in, and we got to host a meet and greet at the club cabin with them. We had a bunch of kids,
awesome.
here, and sign autographs, take pictures. So that
I
felt really good to be able to, give that little celebration for them. And they were super appreciative. And
I have
um,
full goosebumps on my body. That's, like, so
yeah,
kind to do.
yeah. And I
That's
mean, the kids are fired up, but being in that position before, the kids, sorry, the athletes, it means a lot to them too. So
totally,
yeah.
totally. Oh, I love that. So cool. Like, again, I think our community does a really good job of celebrating the athletes a lot of the time. Um, Feet Banks and I were talking about how Whistler kids try and put on like events and free things to like
Mhm.
really bring the community together again. Like he did the horror fest, I do the fam jam, I had the real wild kittens on and they do like skateboard lessons. Um and so let's talk about, for how many years did you do the cowboy camp?
Yeah, the Mike Manny Cowboy Camp was myself and another teammate, Manny Osborne, another
Yeah.
Whistler kid, and we did it for 10 years, um, which seems wild because it
Right.
was a lot of work, and we were like early 20s, and we're like, how do we do this? How do we put this on? How do we raise money?
Yeah.
But I think the like you said, that we're inspired to put these on because we know the impact that sport or
Mhm.
art can have on someone's life. And
Yeah.
so when you're impacted by something like you said, sport, art, music,
Yeah.
um, you want to offer that to someone else. And so when we got to a place in our careers, Manny and I, and we where we had some financial stability, we had some success. We're like, okay, we need to pass this on. And it was
Yeah.
actually Manny that pushed me. We were doing a bursary for $1,000 each that went to 2 kids or 4 kids,
Yeah.
and we said, hey, he said, hey, we need to do more. Let's do it. Let's do a camp. And so we targeted kids who were in that transition age to what is the FIS, which is sort of the international stage of ranking in ski racing.
Yeah.
And it was when they're 15, turning 16, and we wanted to inspire them and see, hey, it's possible. Like myself, Manny made it through the financial challenges, the
Yeah.
commitment challenges with school, and yeah, it started with 10 kids from BC that we rented a house in Whistler, and we all have them come, and yeah, we're like, okay, you don't have to pay for anything when you get here. And the mount was
So
amazing in supporting
cool.
it. And then it grew to, I think we had 25 or 24 at the most from across Canada. We were paying for flights to come in, which seems wild now, and I can't believe we did it. But kudos to
So
Manny,
cool.
who always found the sponsors, and we had great partners to help us along the way. So, yeah, even to this day, like um, there's a bunch of coaches that I work with now who went
Yeah.
to the Mike and Manny camp, and they still talk about it. Um,
Oh, I love
and
that.
like Reese Howden, who is the Globe winner for ski cross, the overall
Yeah.
Crystal Globe winner. He
Yeah.
came one year, and we had like there's some great stories from that. Sam
Amazing.
Mulligan, who's on the Canadian national team, came. Broad Thompson came.
Oh, he's
Who's
gonna be on
Oh,
next.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. Actually, well, maybe you could ask him how he met his wife. It may or may not have been at the cowboy camp when they were
Oh,
15 years old.
I
Uh,
love it, I love it. So
but
awesome.
so I think those, when you're impacted by something special like sport, like music, like art, you want to share it, and
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, those were pretty cool years.
And now look at you, you're just breeding a whole 'nother generation, and
Doing
the
what I
generation,
can.
and the next, and the next.
Yes, a small part, but I think that I do feel um, like I have a sense of responsibility to come back and be a part of,
Mhm.
always improving the system, the development system, the sport pathway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I do wanna touch on that too, because I also, I mean, I could make your bio the whole 30 minutes, but I wasn't going to. You also sat on the FIS board, is that correct?
the FIS Athlete Commission,
The
yes.
FIS Athlete Commission. So how long were you on that for?
I did so FIS, the Federation, the International Ski Federation.
Yeah.
I did 4 years, and I
Mhm.
learned that was super interesting because FIS, from the athlete perspective, is like this bureaucratic, huge ship that entity that is slow moving and not innovative, and I'm
Yeah,
really
yeah,
selling it. So I would complain as an athlete, as we
yeah,
do.
yeah.
Athletes love to complain. And then one of the former racers, an Austrian guy who was on the commission, he said, "Hey, why don't you get involved in this?"
Yeah.
And I was, you're like, okay, obviously I've complained enough where now they're asking me to do something about it. So I went, and, I learned it was amazing. I learned about their board structure and how it worked, and you once you get involved in something, you
Mhm.
realize all the nuances that are there, which make change challenging. And
Yeah.
not that it doesn't validate what the athletes were feeling, it just gives context to it,
Yeah.
and as well, it helped us be able to push. And so once we figured it out, I mean, probably the biggest success we had was myself. There were some amazing other athletes on there. Keegan Randall, I learned a ton from, who's American cross country skier, and
Okay.
she was incredible. But us on the alpine side, we got a proposal passed to raise the prize money for the
Oh,
athletes, and that was a really big learning. Where we came in at the beginning just like raise the
we
prize
need
money, give us more
yeah.
money, and
No ifs, ands, or buts, just do
yes,
it.
and then the chair of the Alpine committee, he said, "Well, come with a proposal and give us the why." And we got to show how inflation had moved and prize money was stagnant and where the money
Okay.
was coming from. And we
Yeah.
weren't fully successful to get our big ask, but we were successful in improving it by a decent amount. So
Amazing.
um, yeah, just how to have to affect change in those bureaucratic and big organizations.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great people there doing with great intention. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it was super
That's
interesting.
true. I keep learning sitting on the Athletes Council for Canada Snowboard and the
Yeah,
Canadian Olympic Committee Athletes Commission as well. I'm like always learning and everything takes forever, but trying to
yeah,
give back to sport, I think, is like so important. And you have really paved the way to show it how athletes should do it as well.
oh, thanks. Yeah.
Anything else about growing up in Whistler?
Um, uh, well, they probably don't. When the Nordic Bridge when it first came in, and we decided to see if we could drive across it. That was probably one. Uh,
No way.
Uh,
Uh,
they
uh,
don't always put. There's a lot of those people back then, and they didn't always put barriers on the Valley Trail, and you could usually drive like a Volkswagen Golf around. But so
well, don't worry. There's so many tourists that end up on the Valley Trail.
that
So
is true.
So for our
In the middle of
listeners
the
and
day. In the middle of
yeah,
the day.
it's so bad. Listeners
Yeah.
and viewers, like in Whistler, as I've said before, we do have this walking trail system, but it does have a yellow line and it looks like a mini road.
Road. Yeah.
And tourists get a little turned around and they end up either in the village or on the Valley Trail, and you're just like, how did you
Uh,
get on this pedestrian walkway?
yeah. I think that's the interview you need to have on like what was the thought process of finding yourself in the middle of Village Square. But it
Amazing.
also there's a few lessons there that if you park illegally, in the commercial loading zone in Whistler and you don't want to pay for parking, you'll get a ticket. But if you park
Yeah.
very illegally, like in the middle of the village, people will just think you're supposed to be there. So
Right.
you'll be fine. Yeah.
Just park right outside this fancy restaurant called
Yeah. And everyone's like,
Araxes.
oh, they must be like doing a service run or something. There's an event going on.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it so much. It makes me I'm like more like jaw dropped most of the time, and then I'm like, "Oh, they don't know what they're doing."
Yeah. Yeah, that's the
You
best.
gotta be gentle with the tourists here.
Yes.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for dropping in. We didn't touch on your book, though.
Oh yeah.
Can
Yeah.
you plug that? I wanna hear about it.
Yeah. So it was a 3-year project that I wrote, and I wanted to. It's about my career and
Mhm.
the pressures of high performance and self discovery.
Yeah.
Using sport as you go through the ups and downs to discover more about who I am and how I want to be in this world.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was a wild 3-year project. A lot of learning, but super rewarding. And we're just coming to being able to share it.
Okay.
So we'll start with a short run in June, where we'll get it out to a few people
Yeah.
to get some hype going, and then launch it in September.
Oh, I'm so
Um,
proud of you. That's really
yeah,
exciting.
yeah.
Inspiring.
Yeah, no, thanks. It honestly is one of the coolest things I've done, and
Yeah.
I can't wait to share it. Should be cool.
Wicked. All right. Well, we
Mhm.
will be on the lookout. And for our listeners, we've also had your sister on, in
Nice.
the shoulder season blues series, and we got some good tips from her from how to get over those shoulder season blues. Right
Mhm.
now, it is May 17th, and the sun is shining, so shouldn't really have the shoulder season blues. But a lot of people in May, I mean, I had this when the mountains started to close, and I was like, oh, what do I do next? What's up?
Yes.
So I would go back and listen to those episodes because they're pretty helpful.
Oh,
Mike, thank
nice.
you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for dropping in on this Whistler Kids Take Two.
Yeah. Thanks, Mercedes.
Welcome to Dropping In, a podcast of storytelling and interview.
So much for dropping in today. You can find everything you want to know about Dropping In with Mercedes at droppinginwithmercedes.com. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Thanks DJ Kenosis for the music and my mom for the intro voice. Do